This story was passed on to me a few days ago, and it's pretty interesting. The mystery metal towers popping up next to the tunnels and bridges all around New York. They've got different bridges and tunnels that they're in the process of installing these in for a total cost of $100 million.
As these tall metal towers quickly popped up after Brooklyn Battery Tunnel toll booths came down.
We don't really know what's the purpose of this.
It's a $100 million MTA project full of secrecy, with 18 of these for the tunnels and bridges. So what are they exactly?
And what's interesting is that the funding for these mystery towers was not done so in a straightforward manner. The Metro Transportation Agency in New York split the funding up and hid it in a bunch of different proposals so that they found it difficult to even figure out how much this is going to cost. Why are they going to this trouble? Why do they cost so much? Evidently, even though they won't tell anyone what it's actually for and what it contains, they've acknowledged that it's some sort of homeland security project to make sure they know everyone and every car that's coming in and out of New York City. And this stuff is quickly being implemented in places all across the country as well. But if you look at the sensors on the top of these very expensive poles, you'll see that a lot of high technology is being put into this project. And they've done so after taking out the traditional toll booths. So once this is implemented, you won't be able to just drive into New York, drop a few quarters, and pass through the toll. It's going to log your license plate. It's going to charge an RFID tag that's tied to your account and your credit card. And they're going to be tracking everyone coming in and out of New York City. So interestingly, they've already done this in Texas. They've got license reading cameras that take pictures of license plates and match them up to the people who need to pay the tolls. They've got RFID sensors that match up with tags that are placed in the car, and they automatically bill. And there's these two different ways, but they identify virtually all the traffic that comes through. I think there's also good reason to think that they may have other advanced technology. At any rate, they asked the members of the board for the New York Metro Transportation Agency. And it's just really strange because the members of the board for the transportation agency aren't even telling the credentialed press what these are for, and they haven't even released all the information to the other members of the board. But the chairman of the MTA, Joe Loda, said he can't discuss it because he signed a security clearance with Homeland Security, and he's not supposed to even talk about what these poles can do, what kind of technology they contain.
We demanded answers from MTA Chairman Joe Loda.
Some of your own board members say they don't know the specifics.
The base of these new pieces that are going up include whatever fiber optics are necessary for those homeland security items.
In other words, anti-terror technology. Could it one day include facial recognition? We don't know. He won't say.
I'm not at liberty to discuss that.
But at this point, there's Stingray technology, fake cell phones that have been intercepting and spying on all the data and communications of entire populations, really in probably most major cities now. New York City themselves started deploying mobile X-ray vans years ago, and they still have refused to reveal to the public and to the ACLU and other groups who are trying to hold them accountable exactly how much it's costing, where it's being used, and what it's being used for. But they're contracting vans that cost almost $1 million a piece to travel around and use Z backscatter X-rays to look into vehicles, to search for suspects, to look into homes and buildings, and to basically watch for what kind of contraband and materials may be traveling through the streets. Only they're accountable to no one. They're not telling anyone if they're looking for terrorists or trying to bust drug dealers or if they have some other kind of plan in mind. They've even refused court orders ordering them to release further details. They've just basically refused, but they know there's many of these X-ray vans going around the country, and it's all part of the future of policing. Now, the backscatter vans are made by the same company that makes body scanning technology for airports, only the Z backscatters that are in these mobile units and also in handheld units like this one, and also at new futuristic traffic portals where you pull through, stop, and they scan the entire vehicle and they could see at least the major stuff of what's in there. But the ionizing radiation, which heats up the body, which damages DNA, which can cause health effects, which can cause cancer, is 40 times greater in these Z backscatters that they're using on the roads than the ones that are used in airports that individuals walk through. So it's a major concern, and they were using these actually in Europe and had to remove them because the health concern was so great that they were already finding cancer clusters and clearly concerned that a very real health risk could be going on with the use of this technology. How much of this is being used in the mystery pylon technology now being used in New York at all of its bridges and tunnels? Well, they just won't admit that. But Governor Cuomo did release a press release on it about transforming the bridges, and they're going to put beautiful LED lights that change colors for all kinds of different occasions on all the bridges. They've got new flood barriers that could seal off tunnels, and they've got ways of shutting down bridges and tunnels if there's some kind of security threat. But meanwhile, they also admitted in their own press release at least some of the new security technology that's going to go along with the automatic tolling. Again, they took out the tolling booths, and they admit that they're testing emerging facial recognition software and other equipment. But just for starters, they admit they have advanced cameras, possibly including infrared. They've got sensors that at least include radiation detectors. They've got license plate reading technology, again, just alone for the sake of tracking toll customers and charging the right people, but also to track people who will show up on the radar, who will be pinged as suspects and potential suspects. They're testing this facial recognition software, and I think it's also very likely they've got the mobile Z backscatter X-ray units out there too, looking into these vehicles as they pass by. Any and all of this could be in this mystery technology. The biggest joke of all is that when these were rolled out in New York, when they hid the budget in a million different pieces so nobody would know what it was, this technology they haven't disclosed, they originally billed as architecture. They've told people that it's a work of art, a unifying structure that'll be the same at all the bridges and roads. Isn't it beautiful, this big hunk of metal filled with cancer-causing surveillance technology that the public can't even be told about? Wow.